Oh baby, we are back. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a glorious new Monday over here for a new week of new opportunities. Doesn't mean shit though, because you didn't have a break anyways over the weekend. It's goddamn cryptocurrency space. 24/7, doesn't sleep, no rest for the wicked in this land. Anyways, a few things to talk about today. We did hit our short-term target back down to that 10,250-ish region. Just settling in where CME's closed on Friday. Classic play. Now, where does this next week lead up into? Well, if I make my video title, Bitcoin mostly sideways and boring AF, will that get all the clickbait that I need? I don't know. Let's try today. Anyways, we'll be talking about that and more, of course. Actually, there are a few interesting things that do suggest that we will see resolution a little bit later this week, which we'll speak about soon too. But other than that, the focus is going to be on, of course, world markets as they are open for trading, at least for futures, and we want to follow up on a lot of that. Play maybe some forex as well. Anyways, looking at the open interest, literally the fucking same. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance, literally the fucking same. Looking at the fear and greed index, literally the fucking same. Actually, maybe not literally the fucking same. It's just one point up right there. Excuse my French, sirs. Looking at the data tab, I'm just curious if there's anything, out of the ordinary right here. And no, not at all. Actually, yes, there is actually, in fact. The Bitcoin global funding rate is 0 right now. It's neither positive nor negative, and that is very bizarre. I've actually never seen it right here. Now, keep in mind that this is the global funding rate, so it's taken an amalgamation of all the different funding rates across all the major derivative exchanges, and that's equaling out to 0, or sorry, averaging out to 0. Maybe better said. So there's definitely gonna be some that are positive and some that are negative, but overall people are actually not technically paying or there would be a prospect to technically pay no funding rate on any contract, neither be paid nor pay out. However, this is trending down rather aggressively right here, which does suggest that we probably are looking for more of a local low on a medium or maybe even higher term time frame in the recent times. But still, this is more or less inconsequential as long as it is below 0.1% and above negative above negative 0.1%, same area, which we are very, 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 very far away from. For example, this was the last time that we were actually even above 0.1%, getting up to 0.12%, and that was actually the high at 12,500-ish region thus far. So let's go into the price action charts right here, and I got a few things to speak about with CMEs opening up. And let me just make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. The microphone's working, so we're all good over there. Maybe I do this up as well. Okay, beautiful. And I think we're ready to rock and roll now. Okay, cool. Anyways, looking at CMEs right here, just leaving off just picking up where we left off on Friday. My words continue to be jumbled and searching for them ever so long. Looking at the daily right here, we do see a few things of interest. Oh, I should probably point out that this RSI right here, this is actually Caretaker's familiar with him in the Discord land, and I'll be speaking about this probably more at length over time. I'm really, really impressed by this because he's actually figured out an indicator on like how to not only plot how to plot local lows and local highs, but also measure divergences off them, which is kind of crazy because a lot of people just have difficulty even like defining a local low or local high. But he's actually put it into code format and then actually notifies you of divergence, which is pretty damn cool. Anyways, do we see anything of interest right here? There is potential hidden bullish divergence between this point and this point, although the indicator probably won't get that one because technically right here on the daily, it is a downtrend as it is right now. Or actually, is it? Well, yeah, we do have a lower high and lower low. Yep, technically speaking. But we do typically see divergences work out from points like this and points like this. Probably have to go to like a 2-day or 3-day to kind of judge that one out. And yeah, and indeed, when you see over here on a 2-day, we do see that it is potential, but this has technically not been confirmed as a local low just yet, which is why you do not actually see one of the arrows right down there as it is. So what does that essentially suggest? Well, I do think that Bitcoin is probably going to give another try towards that $10,000 region. It's the same areas that we've really been having, plotted out for the last, I guess almost 2 weeks now, as that was pretty much the whole thing for last week, just hanging between 10,000 and 10,500-ish region. And that's basically what I see for this week as well, with resolution likely coming a little bit later, around the end of this week, perhaps. But during the week, what does that essentially mean? Well, we just tested the highs. What happens if you go test the resistance? Well, You're going to go down and test some supports, of which, we found our first area at 10,250-ish region, but with momentum oscillators all turning down across, especially the medium-term timeframes, I do think that this one does come down a little bit further to officially test about $10,000 and probably does bounce there again. Looking at the 4-hour right here, headed down still. And do we have any trend lines formed on this one? No, not necessarily just yet, but just getting around that, just getting around the bearish control zone in the next tick or two. So assuming that Bitcoin essentially does not maintain in the short term above, this is on CME. Let's go back to spot price action. If it fails to maintain above, especially 10,350 on these next couple 4-hour closures, then yes, we will naturally start to maintain momentum to the downside and very likely initiate a test back down to the $10,000 base, whether it's $50 above or below that level. I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but somewhere around this blue box territory right around here. And yes, I would be looking for another bounce based upon that region nonetheless. Now, also what's of interest is let's actually just go through all the lower term timeframes over here. 3-hour time frame. Still headed down, but showing a little bit of what's it called of counter trend pressure within this region. But still, it seems to me like we're just kind of snaking around and letting everything more or less reset right now, rather than anything else. And hey, there we go. There's another hidden bullish divergence call right there, and actually did play out quite nice. What is that? 10.2 all the way to 10.350, $150 move. Fine, all good. Anyways, what do we see here that is also of interest? Well, we do see that on, we could look at it on this time frame too, but I think it's going to be more appropriate on the very low time frames. We still see the overall contraction phase on historical volatility percentile playing out. I had this regression drawn in, I think, on a little bit of a lower term time frame. You could do the same thing for a 3-hour as well. The same sort of resolution would be implied, a little bit later this week, maybe early next week, is when this becomes statistically likely to actually break out. As it is right now, just suggests that we're going to be range within this region. Looking at the bi-hourly again, what do we see here? We see same thing on Stokes coming in from the lows right now. But overall levels here matter more than anything else. And if I did actually have to plot out the the very short term time frame levels, I would have one right here, right around about 10,350-ish region. So if I do want to just tentatively put one in, and again, this is only relative to the very, 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 very short term time frames, I would feel a little bit more comfortable in saying that I would be looking for Bitcoin to overall test 10,000 over these next couple days, maybe even today, whatever it ends up being. I don't have a strong opinion on that, as long as we are living below about 10,350 on these next few consecutive closes on the low term timeframes. And then the hourly, I believe that was the time frame that we're looking for in documenting the reads on historical volatility percentile, of which we can see, yep, there it is right there. So there's that lovely regression. And that's what did tell us that we were going to test up to the 10,600-ish resistance. I think it was 2 days ago nights on Saturday night. And now still playing within the overall context of a contraction phase, which actually probably should have had more drawn like this, looking more so at the moving average that's catching all these drives. This would be a little bit of a better regression, catching more or less the highs and the extremes while maintaining the overall composure of the contraction phase, with still a resolution date implied, somewhere right around here. So let me just look at my calendar right now, as I'm curious when that'd be. Okay, sorry, actually that would not be end of this week. That'd actually be early next week. 21, 22, 23 is when this becomes very, 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 very statistically likely to break. So 21st of September is actually next Monday, so to speak. So that's kind of where I'd be looking at it over there, and it would imply that we actually do break the range right here. So that would mean above 10.6 or below 10,000. So let's talk about what happens if one of those areas does get broken, again with the overall interpretation that this is a little bit unlikely to actually happen today or tomorrow, maybe even the next day. What's more likely is that we just continue to play the ranges here. But if Bitcoin does break above 10,600 on a 4-hour total closure, of which that's exactly what we did the other day, not broke it, but just went up and tested it. But if we actually break it on a 4-hour total closure, then yes, I would be looking for a move. Whoops, let me get that off right there. I would be looking for a move to our next blue box, way the fuck up here at basically about $11,000, somewhere around $10,900 to $11,000. Now, technically speaking, would I be looking for continuation above that? I should be going level by level, sticking to my own rules. Overall, though, I do think it'd be more of a formality if I'm giving my opinion on this one, of which I do never trade my opinion, as my opinion's dog shit, and it would probably leave me broke if I did trade it. That's why I've had to learn this whole technical analysis mumbo jumbo. But yes, technically speaking, I would like to see it actually close above this level as well, $11,000, and then generally just bullish all the way through and playing out the same sort of levels that we saw throughout the whole month of August. Nothing more, nothing less, but with the general bullish bias above that region, probably for new highs in this run as well over time. Not all on the same day, but maybe over the course of a month or 2 or 3. Again, not a very sexy video title, but that is the reality of things. I mean, for all the people calling for Bitcoin to 100 billion today or Bitcoin to $1,000 today, well, doesn't happen all that often, does it? Anyways, let me take it off right there. Let's get naked on these charts. And what was I just in the middle of doing? Okay, yeah, so we were talking about the upside targets if 10,600 does break on a 4-hour. Of course, we could also use a 12-hour or daily as well. These are the time frames that I'd be comfortable using in this current regard. And for those same, those same implications, I'd be using about 10,450 for a 12-hour or daily closure. I've been saying 10,500 as of recently, just because it's easier. But technically speaking, if you want to be super exact with it, 10,450 is where I'd be looking towards. If we get any sort of a 12-hour or daily closure above there, I'd basically look for the same sort of targets implied. First, about 10.9 to 11,000, so extend that, $500, $600, and then I do think that we'd pull back from the $11,000 region, but overall very likely to overtake it and then just play out the same range that we saw from August. 11.3, 11.5, 11.8, all going to be areas of interest, plus the prior high of 12.3. There you go. Anyways, and we've all been looking at the same fucking charts for too long, so I can pull these right out of my head, no problem. Looking at the downside, which I wouldn't really make a major call right now whether I think the downside or the upside is going to happen from here. If anything, I actually do think that we're going to test 10,000 and then probably pop back up and then test 10.5 again. I actually do think that, if I'm giving my legitimate opinion. But looking at this right here, if we do break below 10,000 on a 4-hour closure, or if I'm using a 12-hour or daily, I would actually use 10,100. Let me just double check on this one. Yeah, don't trust, verify, or whatever the fuck it is. 10,100 right there. And then I would be targeting moves back down for a big move to the downside, actually, or I'd say relatively big move. Overall, I'd look for a move all the way down here towards about 9,100, the base of our former breakout zone from the month of June to July, essentially. This would also be in line with the volume profile, having the penis of Craig right smack dab in the middle of that area, right around 91 or 9,200-ish region. But again, all these thick AF nodes are coming in this region, which does suggest that yes, we at the very least would try a phenomenal bounce there. Could it potentially be reversal as well? Yes, I do think so. And realistically, I do think that there's 3 places where this current downside run could reverse. Place number 1 is basically where we are at right now, $10,000. That could very well be it. But of course, no real talks of that until we at the very least take out 10.6. The next one would be down around here at 9,100-ish region, and below there, well, then we can talk about 7,500-ish region. But I'll spare you the Spanish Inquisition of that idea right now, and we'll come back to that. If it's relevant, preferably after breaking 9,100, then it would be on the on the menu, so to speak. But for right now, if we did break below $10,000, there would be bounces along the way down to 9,100-ish region. I'll be looking for bounces at 9,700 for a smallie, and medium-term bounce somewhere right around about 9,450 to 9,500. And then, yes, I'd look for both those bounces to fail and very likely come down to 9,100, again, assuming that criteria is met to begin with. So we are getting way far ahead of ourselves, but, when price action is stale and sideways and boring as fuck, well, then that's the time to be planning for future moves. Someone asked me a really good question yesterday in the program Discord for the members, and he said, Krown, how many trades do you take per day? And I said, well, sometimes none, and sometimes quite a bit. It just depends on whether my edge is giving me a signal or not. That's the only thing that makes me take a trade. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There's times when the marks just go sideways aimlessly, and you're not going to get a signal. I mean, you can't really have a quota for a trade, which is, will rely on external factors in a lot of ways. So there's that. But also he asked, how many hours a day do you spend actually trading? Well, you really have to think about that, because what I'm doing right here is actually what I consider like my homework for my trades. I'm basically just plotting out areas that I'm interested in taking trades. So any trade that I do take is predetermined well in advance. There's no real surprises. The only time that I'll take a trade like in the moment is when we get something like this, like a coronavirus dump, and it's like, okay, we're coming down to like a fucking macro level. Kind of have to do something there. I'm not waiting for a level, that I didn't talk about already. Of course, that's these are outlier situations, but they happen few and far between. Maybe a few times a year at most. For most of the part of the year, it's just, it's like this. It's sideways for months, big move for like 5 fucking minutes, and then sideways for another month, big move for 5 fucking minutes, sideways for another few weeks. You get where I'm going with this. So all of these things are predetermined well far in advance, and then it's just a matter of setting up alerts, maybe even setting up, some sort of a crude algo alongside with it. You can definitely do that. You can do it with most exchanges now yourself anyways, just by setting a limit order and then setting in like a stop limit to take the other side, and then setting in a stop market to take, to use a stop loss. Kind of a crude way of doing it. Definitely not the best way of doing it, but it could work. And that's available to anyone who uses any one of these major derivative exchanges. I've pretty much seen all of those types of order forms on all of them. And so there you go. So realistically, how much time do I spend trading per day? I mean, you could even say none. I mean, what's new about this area right here? We've been playing off the same 10, 5, and $10,000 low for the last 2 weeks. Have I really been doing any extra homework for that? No, it's just been the same. It's just been the same. At some point, yes, it will very likely break. I mean, the probability of that is extremely high, but still, until that actually happens, no reason to change anything, at least from my disposition. Again, that's not to say that that's the only way to trade. It's just a way that's kept me safe throughout, I guess, more than a decade now of trading. Anyways, so let's go over to the medium term time frame, see what they're saying. Yes, this is what I wanted to talk about. The 10 hour. The 10 hour does have a death cross impending relatively soon. Actually, on this next tick, we very likely do fully confirm it. I guess if you are more on the conservative side, which I certainly am, I'd probably wait for the next 2 ticks, but the next one definitely will put it like under immediate pressure. And the one after that will be the full on confirmation, assuming that we do see the green 55 cross below the purple 200-ish right there, which do both have negative slopes. And this would be your last test before, playing it out. Now let's go see what the history of this cross has been in Bitcoin land. I typically don't follow this time frame for this cross. So I'm just curious to see. Now, obviously this is going to link up with the daily 21 and 55 as well, but it's going to get about the same areas, it looks like, as does get this breakout right here, does get the momentum drive, which, technically speaking, while I am just plotting out this 35 and 3/4% move to the upside right here, it's more than that, because technically speaking, it does come down and contract on each other well after, like a month after that, but they never actually get the death cross. Instead, this actually technically leads you all the way up to about 12,500. Now getting ready for a cross to the downside. This one over here, maybe a slightly worse time, or slightly less better timer than what we saw on the daily 21 and 55. But again, another almost 50% drop to the downside right there. This one over here, pretty damn good to the upside as well, getting this move all the way from 81 to 10.5, 30.25% move as well. This one over here, a little bit of a fake out there, so it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, at least as far as I've learned. But it does get this momentous drop right here. So I think the daily is actually a little bit better in this regard for another cross that we'll actually be referencing soon. But 35% to the downside on the one that actually does play out. This one obviously right here, terrible one, would have taken a girthy green dildo straight in the fucking throat like a goddamn alien from Sigourney Weaver's movies, just popping out of your chest. It's beautiful, man. Anyways, golden cross over here, you already know this one. Death cross over here takes you all the way through, actually. Basically the same areas as the other cross that we were kind of been referencing here too. Anyways, getting more of these things on the same side though would still imply more pressure to the downside. And you can see, while there have been a few failed crosses like this guy right here, which completely did not get anything. And well, are there any other good ones? You could argue that this one failed right here too, but technically speaking, it did keep you, if you followed the trade like the whole way through, just fucking blindly, which is a silly way to do it. It's certainly not optimal, but if you did do that, you would have entered right here, and technically speaking, it never got golden crossed after that. In fact, this was a fake out right here again as well, and we got a 50% move to the downside. And then this guy over here, a little bit better timer than the other cross that I've been referencing to as of recent, another 50% move to the downside as well. Anyways, Obviously if we shave 50% off our current price action, that'd bring us down to like $5,000. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's happening right now. I think that would be a little bit too aggressive for me to say, and I don't think that that's what's happening here. I think that we probably see a little bit of a less efficacious cross. In fact, I think that the daily one gets it a lot better, and maybe it's just kind of confirming my beliefs right now. But looking at the daily 21 and 55, which are both having negative slopes right now and have officially crossed the downside, and we would consider Sunday's wick to the upside a test of that. As long as we are below this level, yes, it is in play technically speaking. So this is very, 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 very important going forwards here. As long as Bitcoin's below 10.5 or 10.450, if you want to be super exact, on a daily or 12-hour closure, this is technically speaking playing out. Now, while I think that it's a little bit premature to be, discussing moves like down to 7,500 and below, I do think that if $10,000 does break, it is very much very, 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 very relevant to talk about a move down to at the very least 9,100-ish region. So that's something that I would certainly like to prepare for. And as you can see, we got all these same moving averages on here. I just added on a yellow 21 exponential average as well, and the yellow 21 and green 55 are similar to what we looked at just on the 10-hour with the green 55 and the purple 200. Getting the same move right here, getting the same move right here, getting the same move right here, getting the same move actually all the way over here without the fake out actually, and then several examples of which slightly better that we saw in 2018 as well, getting this one right here, this one right here, and this one the whole way down as well. So all of these are 30 plus percent moves, I believe, and that would be interesting just to see what would that shave off our current price action. 30% off our current price action would actually put us back down around the mid to low 7,000s, which is where I do think Bitcoin will end up if 9,100 does break. The reason why I say that is based off mostly the weekly time frame right here and the long-term trend. The long-term trend for Bitcoin on the weekly has been to put in macro lows on the white 200 simple. Now, is that always going to be the case? Probably not. I mean, just because it's never broken the 200 simple doesn't mean it will continue to never break the 200 simple on the weekly. Probably will at some point. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years, could be 100 years down the road. Who knows? But it will very likely happen over given enough time frame. But as it is right now, it would be holding the lows of this current major macro consolidation phase. And if Bitcoin did come back down to that level, this level right here, I guess this is maybe we could use this chart right here. Same thing. It would just be in line with the 200 simple, and that would be right around that mid to low $7,000 region, assuming that we approach it, somewhere right around here. And again, this would actually be long term a massive ascending triangle, which is a bullish reaccumulation formation. Volume signature is certainly not proper for this, but we can make amends for it, mostly because, well, it fits a lot of biases. It would still be in line with that, and so that's something that I would certainly want to be defensive against going forwards here. Not to say that it's going to happen or anything like that. Again, if Bitcoin breaks above 10.5 on a daily closure, I'm not bearish on that at all. Like I said, I'd be looking for another test back up here at the very least. Probably ultimately at least back to 12,000-ish region or 11.8. With those same stops along the way. Now, by contrast, there is something very significant that Bitcoin did do yesterday with the advent of the weekly closure, and that is we once again continued to close above the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which continues to have a positive slope. I cannot get even bearish on a weekly until we at the very least break below it and then get a negative slope on the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly. Why is that, you ask? Well, you didn't ask anything, but I'm just gonna ask for you because, well, fuck it. But every macro cycle that Bitcoin's ever had has been actually denoted by this moving average. I suspect that will not be that will not be the trend for forever, but for now it's working, and well, it works until it don't. And anyone who's faded this over the last 10, 11, 12 years, whatever the genesis history is of Bitcoin, has not lived to tell the tale of it. Anyways, looking at it back on over here, Bitcoin price action above with positive slope on the 21. Well, that keeps you long the whole way from literally $5 all the way to 1,200, and then tells you to be bearish on this bull trap right here, all the way from 600 down to 150, and then tells you to be bullish all the way over here from 270 all the way to 20,000, and gets all these bullish dumps along the way as well. Yes, we do get some wicks below. That's completely fine, but as long as there's no closures below, it's going to be, well, there's naturally not going to going to be any sort of change in slope, at least, or well, like reversal in slope, I guess. Obviously, the slope is constantly changing, but looking at this area over here, we are once again above it. It's maintaining a positive slope, and Bitcoin has once again found its initial lows off this region. And guess what? This is all coming along the side of hidden bullish divergence on the weekly as well. Now, the caretaker RSI has actually not marked this one off as a local low just yet, and he's right for doing that. Again, this guy is fucking impressive. This guy's really fucking impressive. Actually, I was speaking with him yesterday, learning a little bit more about him, and I don't even know how to describe what he does. He fucking works with like 500 or 600 million euro lasers that supply the likes of Nvidia. So he's like on the bleeding edge of tech. It's like basically the things that I'm the most interested in, and he's right there making it in front of his very face. Super fucking cool. A lot of it's well the fuck over my head, but he is right at not denoting this as a local low just yet. In order to denote this as a local low, we need to do one of two things. We either need to close on a higher closing price than the prior open in this case, or take out last week's wick to the upside. I think that would likely do it as well. And guess where it is? That's at 10,600-ish region, and the open of last week was close of last week was 10,350-ish region. And sorry, I meant close on this one, not open. If that can happen, then this will start to formulate itself as a local low and start to confirm itself, and then we actually will have playable hidden bullish divergence between this point and this point. Very, very subtle, but it would imply a move at the very least back up to the exponential. And if that comes alongside a breakage of those ranges, then well, I would be targeting those upside those upside areas just as we spoke. So you can see kind of both ways right now, and this is what really pisses a lot of people off about technical analysis, because you can say, well, it could go up or it could go down. Well, yes, no shit, because guess what? There's no way to fucking know exactly what price is going to do. You can only come up with probabilities and statistics ever. And if you cannot get that through your fucking mind, this channel is just going to piss you off, and it's probably not a good idea to be watching. And I don't say that in like a demeaning way. It's just, well, maybe there's something else out there that you could find that works better with your ideas of how trading works. Fair enough. Can be done. I guess you can get into high frequency trading. You could do that. Although I suspect unless you have like tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in trading equity, it's not going to be the most it's not going to be the most relevant style. But you can definitely make it work, or join a prop shop or something like that. Okay, what are we looking at right here? I think we already kind of covered up the 4 hour. Is there anything on volatility that I want to speak about here? No, playing out that same contraction phase, going all the way down. Basically the same areas that we looked at on the hourly. Same dates and price action implied there as well. I want to do a quick look at the Bollinger Bands here as well. CMEs are looking massively different to what we see on spot price action. Oh, and that reminds me of another thing that I wanted to say. So while I did show a few different bearish things for spot price action, it's very important to me that it's actually not present on CMEs. For that same daily 21 and 55 cross, you can see the yellow and the 21 are nowhere near each other on this time frame, and the 10-hour death cross is again even further away. The 55's all the way up here at 10.9, the 200's all the way here at 10.5, and the 200 still has about a neutral slope actually. So there's really it's those are not really available until I actually see it on CMEs. Now, if CME trades sideways for another week below 10.6, it will start to get those actually, yes. So it is a bit of a ticking time bomb. Sideways below this level for too long naturally will put the probabilities in favor of the bears here. But if Bitcoin can't, Bitcoin wants to test back up to the upside sooner rather than later, that would imply good things. For the 11,000s and beyond. Anyways, let's go check out. Or are we done with Bitcoin right now? Oh my God, I'm 27 minutes in this bitch and barely just done with Bitcoin. Let's go look at Mr. Butterall, see if there's anything obvious here. Mr. Butterall looks a lot more toppy to me. Putting in a local high here and fading the 21. Looks like it wants to test back down. If Bitcoin does test 10,000 again, I look for Butterall to test back down about 340 to 335 region, somewhere along the cyan 89 expansion average right here. Momentum oscillators on the daily are actually turning up right now, but keep in mind that we do have this trend line right here, which it will be hitting probably on the next tick, and that's guarding right smack dab against the bearish control zone. Lovely how that works out sometimes, isn't it? Anyways, on the lower term time frames, do we see anything of note here as well? Looks very similar to Bitcoin on the lower term time frames. Did actually mark off that hidden bullish divergence right here, but I think that's mostly played out, or maybe a slight move higher to like 375 or something like that. But overall, the ranges here are pretty much set. This one putting in a lower high here on, again, the medium and higher term time frames, like our 12-hour daily and above. Yeah, high, low, and well, if we put in a lower low, then we are in the process of downtrending now, aren't we? But as it stands right now, still has to actually break this level before I get like bearish on it, on the same way that I look for Bitcoin in 9100. So the same areas essentially apply below about 335, 330-ish region. Then we could talk about big moves to the downside for Mr. Buterin as well, in line with Bitcoin, probably slightly below $300 would be the next area that I want to be cognizant of. And while we are here on the 12-hour, it probably should be of note that the 12-hour Stokes are turning, well, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're necessarily turning down right now, but they are a little bit under pressure. I'd look for the 10-hour Stokes to lead, and since we are in the TA nerd session right now, you probably already know that I'm actually looking at these guys to be the next 12-hour Stokes, and guess what? They're already turning down, as you would suspect. But we really want to verify these things, because it doesn't always happen like that. And I imagine it's going to be the same thing on Bitcoin as well. Yeah, Bitcoin 10-hour Stokes down, by the way, hitting this trend line right here, and then 12-hour Stokes, are they in the same posturing as well? Yes, in fact, same trend line too, or same kind of areas implied essentially. On the next tick, we probably should hit it, and if we are going to look for that to play out, then that would probably be the catalyst for coming back down and testing around $10,000 or so. With potentially could even break, could break there too. It's possible, obviously. It's just I wouldn't really call it a break until it officially breaks, right? Anyways, what else do we want to check out? Let's go check out, well, I guess regular stocks aren't open, but we can check out NASDAQ futures, pop them up for the early morning session. I'd be looking for it to bounce off this like 11,250-ish region. I do think that this one has more downside to go. I do think that we probably test some more downside overall, probably down to about 10.5-ish region, give or take about $50 from there. Weekly closed pretty poorly last week. Could we open up on a bounce and maybe even trade a little bit higher towards like 11.5? Could, yes, but I'd still look at that as a selling opportunity. I do think that we will be progressing to the downside here, down towards 10,500 region over the next week or two. Can I be wrong in that? Yes, maybe, but maybe no. No, I can never be wrong. But I will be wrong on that if we start to close dailies above 10.5 or even 10.450-ish region, or sorry, I'm using Bitcoin numbers, 11.450 or 11.5, then yes, I probably would reconsider that and look for a move at the very least back up to like 12,000 right here. But keep in mind, oh my God, these charts are so fucking convoluted. But keep in mind that the weekly did officially confirm regular bearish divergence between this point, and this point. Ooh, I would actually connect to those. They are a little bit further away, but fair enough. I do happen to think that one does matter right there, but we'll see over the next couple of weeks, as I do believe that would initiate a move down back towards about 10.5, give or take a few bucks. And I imagine that we see the same thing on E-mini futures for SPY too. The range of this week to the upside 3,400. As long as we're below there, though, I do look for an overall move to the downside over the next couple of weeks, down towards about 3,200-ish region. Yeah, same sort of thing here too. If we close a daily above 34, I would, I'd change my opinion on that at the very least for another move back to 35. Relatively short after that. But well, momentum oscillators actually are going to turn on the same side too. So you know what? It actually really could reverse here. It looks a little bit more healthy than Nasdaq. But still, I'd wait for it to prove itself. This is the first time that I've really felt like traditional markets might have a major top in place, at least for NASDAQ. The rest, I think, are going to go into rotations for a little bit and then perhaps play out some down. Let's go check out Euro Dollar as well. It's open for the trading week here too at 118.5 almost. Same thing to cover here. I do think that we will test the downside again this week at like 117.5. Do you think that we'll actually test the upside again at 119? But is a breakage implied here? Well, no, it's not. It's not, and I'd still be using the same areas for a macro play, which means that as long as we are below 119.5, I'm looking for this to make a major high here and trade over the next couple months down to 115. That also means that if we do close a weekly above 119.5, I target moves towards 121 and then 1.25 respectively as well, this would be pretty big deal actually on the macro scale. But still, for now, it is a 12-year long downtrend going all the way back to February of '08, and I don't really see any real reason for that to stop as it is right now. Okay, cool. What else we want to talk about? Let's talk about gold for a second. Is there anything new here? Gold kind of looks like it wants to get picked up. Gold above last week's high at 1966.5, and our target moves back up to $2,000 even. Same thing for last week's low. If we do break 1900 low, just by ticking below, don't even need to close below there. I'd be looking for another move back down towards about 1850 or whatever. Yeah, 1850 is what I'd be looking towards. Daily looks sideways AF. I don't really have anything to make out of that. I suppose now would be a good time to go look at the good old altcoins. I don't even know it's hot anymore, man. Like, I have all the altcoins from like 3 years ago, and they all look like absolute shit for the most part, almost all of them. Link, however, looks like it wants to test some downside here too. I'd be looking for a move back down to about $10.5, $11. What about on the weekly? Weekly looks weirdish. I don't really have much to make off that, but that doesn't mean that I'm macro bearish on this one. I actually do think that if it did come back down to about $10, that'd be quite the opportunity right there, or $10.5, whatever I said right here. Yeah, 10.5. Actually, maybe even a little bit more towards like 10.75. But I do think that it does have a little bit of downside here to test. Yeah, 4 hours looking a little bit nastier too. I mean, this is kind of flagging out now, isn't it? But I'd still be going off the levels on the higher term time frames. Anyways, short term, I do think that it tests downwards a little bit. But until we actually break these levels right here, like below 10.5 or above, what is this, 1285? Still just the same range. Above 1285, I look for another move back up towards like almost $15. Below 10.5, I look for moves, well, $8.5 and perhaps below there. The funny thing about this is, and this is the power of Link right now, even if you go down to $8.5, it's still an uptrend. Even if you go all the way down to $5.5, it's actually still, okay from a macro scale. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's like okay from a trading scale. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's more than a 50% drop from where we are right now. Here's what the real chart looks like, of course, as well for reference. But again, strong charts do get rewarded now, don't they? Let's go look at, I guess, is there anything else to really look at here? I think all my shit is old, so it doesn't really matter. The only thing that's still relevant mostly is this butyrol, I suppose. Anyways, I think that's probably a good place to even leave this one off. Let's go back to the secondary chart for a second, for just 1 second. Yeah, let's see what we got here. So this is CME. Let's go back to spot price action. As long as we're below the 10 simple on a closing basis for the daily, I do look for the downside to get tested on this one, yes. So fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's what I'm going to be sticking with for today. I probably won't be making too much trades today. I do not make trades in the middle of a fucking range like this. This is just silliness to me. But hey, for anyone who's making money or making money consistently, in a stance like this, hey, more power to you. To me, this is like a 50-50 area right here with the slight edge on the downside. I'm more inclined to trade along the peripheries right here and right here, of which I did take one right here, did take one right here, did take one right here, and did take several on the lows right here as well. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is first thing from financial advice preps as well. But for right now, what I could say is on the very low time frames, as long as we're maintaining closure below 350-ish region, very likely we do come back down and test around $10,000. Does not imply that we break down below there. And same thing for the upside. If we do break above 10,350, do we get another test towards 10.5 or 10.6? Probably yes. Does it imply that we break above there? No. And we've already spoken about all the targets what happens if we break above or below this area or this area. So that's where I'll leave you off today. I need to go get some food, man. I'm so hungry. Got some beef on deck. I want to wish you well though. I want to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest. Take care, and until next time.